We are ready to create the V-block. I've taken a board and milled it so that it is 3¼ inches wide, 2¼ inches tall, and 20 inches long. I jointed one face of the board, then planed it to thickness, edge jointed the board, and then cut it to width on the table saw. I now have a Ridge Carbide TS2000 40-tooth flat top blade mounted in the table saw, prepared to do the cut at a 45-degree angle. I used a Klein angle gauge to set the blade to exactly 45 degrees, and then I used my test sample to verify that the rip fence is in the correct spot to make the cut. As you can see, the cutoff drops very close to the blade. However, it is not pinched by the blade because I have a right tilt saw. In other words, the blade, when it's tilted at 45 degrees, it tilts to the right instead of tilting to the left, as is common with most of the newer saws. If I had a left tilt saw, then I would have a little bit of difficulty trying to set up the rip fence, especially on this saw, because of the way the rip fence is designed. As soon as I noticed that the blade was nearing the end of the cut, I turned off the saw blade, the table saw, so that this piece would not eject, potentially, back at me. That is a risk, especially if it gets pinched between the blade and the rip fence, as would be the case here if it were not cutting away at an 1/8 inch kerf. So that was a fairly safe cut. I had to make it using two different push blocks, two different push sticks that I created, and they worked rather well. You do have to watch where your fingers are at and make sure that your push stick is not going to end up in this area of the cut, because you don't want to cut into your push stick unless absolutely necessary. And you especially do not want to cut into a plastic push stick, because those can shatter, which is why I use wood push sticks, and these are also much more economical to create. Here you can see the result of the cut. There's no burning in the cut area because I used a 40-tooth blade that has a rip profile. If I had used my Forest Woodworker 2 blade, which also has 40 teeth, that probably would have left burn marks due to the different type of teeth profile. This rip blade that I have on here has flat ground teeth, which means that the top of the teeth are flat. Whereas with a normal crosscut blade, or a combination blade like the Forest blade, the top of the teeth are angled for better crosscut capability with minimal tear out. If I had used this blade to do a crosscut, it would have had quite a bit of tear out on the end of the cut. But it did a beautiful job. Without the V-block, there would only be a single point of contact between the dowel rod that's to be cut and the table, whether it's a bandsaw table or a table saw table or a chop saw table or something of that sort, or even a radial arm saw table. With a V-block, there's actually 2 points of contact all along the rod on both the left and the right side of the V to help keep the rod from either spinning or bouncing out of control or kicking back at you during the cut. Without this V-block, I was having some issues cutting the dowel rods. And now with this V-block, or even the shortened version, which was my test piece, that should no longer happen. I'll also be able to use this for cutting larger dowels and potentially even cutting dowels in half lengthwise. Thank you for joining me. Have a nice day. Bye.